and welcome back to Beyond the Spreadsheet, a podcast brought to you proudly by the Institute of Chartered Accountants of Namibia. I'm your host, Rodilio Lewis, and we've got an exciting guest in our studio today to chat to us all about chartered accounting. So sit back, relax, and take a quick listen about the history about ICAN. Beyond the Spreadsheet is a new podcast brought to you by the Institute of Chartered Accountants of Namibia. It aims to move beyond the spreadsheet and delve into the minds of Namibia's most prolific chartered accountants, offering a glimpse into the finance and the accounting professions from their insights. And of course, that was a brief history on ICAN and what they're all about. Now, enough about that, because we're here to, of course, chat to a very special somebody. And if you're wondering who this powerful woman is, well, she is the current CEO of the Namibia Investment Promotion and Development Board, that is the NIPDB, and she was the country's senior partner of PwC for more than 10 years. And she also served as the ICAN president from 2006 all the way until 2008. But there's more, because she also won Businesswoman of the Year back in 2021 and was named one of the most 100 influential women in Namibia. And on top of that, she also has many more accolades, as she's also one of the pioneers and the first Black Namibian woman to qualify as a chartered accountant in the country. And she was also the first Black Namibian woman to occupy the position of PwC managing partner until 2020. The first for a Black woman and for a Namibian. I'm speaking about no one else than the amazing Nangula Uaandja. How are you doing, ma'am?
Yeah, I'm doing great, and it's good to be here with you, Rodilio.
Thank you so much for joining us, and for, of course, just having a moment to quickly balance the sheets with us to find out exactly what it is that you do and how you came to be the powerful woman you are today. So for all of our listeners listening now, who exactly are you and how did you become the woman you are today?
So I think first I need to apologize because I'm moving more and more away from the spreadsheet. So, and from the numbers. So I'm becoming more of an economist than an accountant. But I think, of course, I need to remain true to my accountancy and true to my auditor. And many times I discuss or I tell people when you're working with, I say, look, for the auditor in me, can you please just put that in a spreadsheet for me? And people that I work with, they know how much I love Excel. So I say, can you put it in Excel? You cannot put a table in Word. Please, a table must be created in Excel, and there's a reason for that. So yes, I am definitely still very, very true to my profession, but a little bit moving away from the numbers of accountancy and the numbers of auditing and more into economies. But yes, background, I'm a village girl. I'm somebody who was born, bred, and grew up in the village, very far in the north of Namibia, close to the Angolan borders. And that is where I was all my years, until around about teenage years, when I decided to kind of skip the country and go in exile. There is something that they make a joke with, that we are the ones that went to fetch the mattress. It's like we the kids that went on the last minute. So we went early 1988. And then, of course, 1989, people started to come back home. And then 1990, it was independence. But, of course, when we went, we did not realize that independence was in sight. So we were still going to see how can we contribute to the liberation struggle of Namibia. So I went in exile, spent my high school years there, and then, of course, came back to Namibia. But, of course, it is where I was studying at in Sierra Leone. I tell people I studied science. Up to grade 12, I was a science student.
Wow.
I did not know what accounting was, but I studied chemistry, physics, mathematics, additional mathematics, anything of science. That's what I did. But we had one lecturer, and I think that guy was our French lecturer. And one day he was talking about something. No, he wanted to become a chartered accountant. Not that I followed it up with, but I know he mentioned it once or twice. But it kind of left a point there, but not really stuck, because I came back and still thinking that I would become an engineer, a doctor, a scientist, an architect, anything, of course.
But not the spreadsheet.
Not the spreadsheet, because I didn't even know what the spreadsheet is, but anything in the field of science. That's what I thought. And then, like I tell people, my father is a business person. I came back home. He had some challenges, and I thought, okay, I need to learn something that will help that will make me, enable me to help my father with his business.
Beautiful.
Yeah. So then I thought it was economics because I've never heard about accountants. So I registered for economics at the University of Namibia. I studied in the first year doing my Bachelor of Economics. And then somebody mentioned a lady that was there, Lynette Rottenbach. And they said, no, she's a chartered accountant. And I wondered, somebody mentioned that word before. What is a chartered accountant? What do they do? So I started to do research. For some other reason, I got hold of SICA. I found out what is a chartered accountant, what do they do, and I realized, I think in order to help my father, this is what I need to do. So the next year, I changed my course from economics to Bachelor of Commerce to study chartered accountancy. And then I started the journey, applied for holiday job at Coopers and Lybrand then, which became PricewaterhouseCoopers. And I think, like they said, the rest is history.
The rest is history. Yes. No, that's beautiful. So I think that's what's so interesting for me always. Like as we've been having these episodes and chats, I've realized like not everyone started off by saying, I want to be a chartered accountant. There was always like this pivotal person. There was always someone that showed up, a mentor, and they were like, chartered accounting. And then that word stuck somewhere in the back. And then when it popped up again, they were like, this is why, this is why. But of course, it's a field that I don't think a lot of times we see many women sit in, and specifically black women in our country.
Yes.
And you are, of course, the first black woman in Namibia to be a chartered accountant. What was the hurdles like, and how did you get to that position, and what does it feel like to carry that type of a title on your shoulders?
Yeah. So I think one thing about me as I grew up, I never go for easy things. I take things to solve a problem. So when I was thinking about studying science anyway, I always thought, okay, look, what is the most difficult science field? That's what I want to take. So I
challenge.
I like challenges. And when I was growing up, I tell people my motto when I was growing up as a teenager, it's like, what man has done, man can do. If a human being has achieved something, then it's because it's achievable by a human being. And if it's achievable by a human being, why can that not be me? So that is normally how I grew up. And if therefore I set my mind on saying, we need to achieve ABCD,
yes,
I will put out all the stops to make sure that we achieve ABCD. And then, of course, when I started to study chartered accountancy, like I told you, I was not looking for accolades. I'm not looking for breaking any barriers or anything for that matter. My father had a challenge, and I needed to solve it.
Yes.
So many times I see that all my moves, all my actions and my next steps and so on, they are moved by looking at a problem that I want to solve. And I believe that I am called, I feel inside me, there is a call that I need to solve that one. And that is what I was going for. So I did not even know the statistic of chartered accountants in Namibia. I did not even realize that before independence, people were not allowed to, or black people were not allowed to study to become chartered accountants. All I know is it's chartered accountants. I need this one in order to solve my father's business challenges, and this is what I'm going to do. And then, of course, I come to Coopers and Lybrand, and then I realized, yes, the profession that I have decided to enter is a profession that is dominated by white males. And yes, the few challenges, the first barrier for me was language. So of course, I am somebody who, yes, it's a black female that does not speak Afrikaans, and I come in the world of work that is dominated by male, African-speaking males. So that is basically what was there. The one thing is I did not at the time feel like, no, I'm excluded because I'm a woman, I'm excluded because I'm black. What I felt like is I'm excluded because I cannot speak Afrikaans. That is actually the hurdle that was the main hurdle to me. Yes, because in meetings, people would be speaking Afrikaans. That was in the early 90s, just after independence. You go to clients, people are speaking Afrikaans, and I cannot speak Afrikaans. So I remember the first few development objective that I have. Start speaking Afrikaans, start learning Afrikaans. And then I think at some point I realized I need to accept language is not my strong point. And I need to make peace with like what they call the 80-20 principle. 80-20 principle says spend 80% on or 20% on where you can get 80% of your result, and do not spend your time on your weaknesses.
Stunning.
And I knew language is my weakness, so I am no longer going to set objectives that I'm going to speak Afrikaans.
Yes.
The official language in Namibia is English. I just have to allow that people must accept me for who I am and the technical contribution that I bring to the table,
Yes.
and then let us work together. So of course, with time, we started working together, transforming the workplace and becoming more like bilingual, which
Yes.
means there's other Namibian languages one can speak, but when it is formal business meetings, let us speak the language that all of us understand. So that is where I had the hurdle. The hurdle of now, where I tell people, like, look, if you're looking for something, you will find it. So for me, I say I don't have time for distractions.
That's it.
I was here to become a chartered accountant. Now somebody think you're a woman, or you are black. I say I don't have the time and energy for that one, and to start either feeling inferior or feeling superior to anybody. I am here not to look at any kind of distractions. So maybe the challenges were there. I was not looking for them. I did not see them. I did not have time for them, because what I had time was to make sure that I passed the examination,
Yes.
to make sure that I qualify as a chartered accountant, and because I was focused on making sure that I do the best of my work. I know that I was recognized. I know
Yes.
that I probably became one of the youngest partners at PwC at
Yes.
the time. And I know that I grew, and I know that people invested in me. And the people that invested in me were white male. They made me a partner. And of course, when they made me a partner, we worked together as partners. And all of those guys that became my partners then, they remained friends up to today. So yes, I am so sure that there were challenges, but I am so sure that there were bigger things that I was targeting, that I was so focused on those big things that I probably did not see
them.
the challenges showing up. Like I say, the language barrier is
Was
the
the
one,
only one.
the one, because that one could impact my work. As I'm
Yes.
in a meeting, you speak, I would not know, what do I need to do after this meeting? It could potentially impact my work, and therefore that one I needed to address.
And that was an 18-year journey, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Yeah, it was a long journey.
Like-
I was at PwC for 24 years.
Wow.
Yes.
24 years.
Yep.
Yeah, so for those 24 years, we are figuring out this language barrier, and then we
No,
said,
no.
I'm going to take this, move it out, and look at my Excel.
It was sorted out early in the years.
No,
so the
that's
language
amazing.
barrier was sorted out in the early in the years. So probably before I became a partner, which is about 2000, yes, maybe it was still a bit there. But I think by the time we got about to 2002, 2003, I became a partner in 2002. I think by the time we get to 2004, I think we have sorted it out.
Then we were like, this is
So I think we sorted it out early in that career journey, because it was just a culture. Of course, you are coming from a culture where people were used to this language, and you needed to do a culture change.
Yes.
And when you're doing a culture change, it doesn't happen overnight
Yes.
or one day. So you kind of have, and many times, so I tell people, first I used to tell people, guys, English, please. And then it came to a place where it's not I, it's somebody else. Please remember Nangula, English.
does.
And then I remember one day, so one of my partners was telling me, myself and somebody else, we got to a meeting late. And then when we got there, one was making a joke. Nangula, you are such a bad influence. I said, what happens? You were not here, and then we were having this meeting in English.
all the Afrikaans parties are sitting there like, what must we do
And
now?
Why can we speak? Why should we speak English when all of us can speak Afrikaans and Nangula is not here? But it was a culture change. It took a kind of a bit of a stretch in the first 2 or 3 years, but then we got it right. And
it was a healthy,
yes,
great journey.
Exactly.
No, I love that. And speaking of like this, the culture change and everything, you, of course, you were in the private sector,
Yes.
and then you transitioned over to the public sector. And we know that obviously language changes from the private and the public sector. We know that the way things are done are a lot different. And for that change to happen in your life also, there were many changes that came into place as well. Can you tell us a little bit about what was that change like, going from the private sector and then stepping into the public sector?
Yeah. So I think the first change was the change of saying I will work for public sector. If you met me probably 24 months before I went to the public sector and you asked me, Nangula, will you work for the public sector? The answer would have not it would have been a very, very certain no. I will not work for the public sector. So that is where I was. So the first change was to accept that I will be working for the public sector. And again, I believe that I saw a need, and I felt like I'm called to meet that need. So the need was, I served on the high-level panel on the Namibian economy, where I was appointed by His Excellency, the late Hage Geingob, may his soul rest in peace. And when we worked there, I got to understand and to work closer with our ministers, with the president, and with public servants. And I think what I then realized is the heart. So yes, I've worked a lot in the private sector, and I understand where the private sector is and what their heart are, and what they want to do for Namibia. And then I worked with our leaders, our political leaders, and I saw their heart, and I saw what they want to achieve for Namibia. But then, of course, I realized that there is a missing gap. And what is missing is the connecting the public sector and the private sector. So we have got a private sector that is here, we've got a public sector that is here, but there is no way we can grow this Namibian economy and reach where it needs to reach if the two are not working together collaboratively. But because of the history, having a private sector seen more as a white private sector and the public sector seen as like black people's government and so on, we were having this divide. And I felt like maybe I'm one of the few people that understand where both of these are coming from. So the people in government, they were my colleagues. Yes, I was young, but I was in exile, and therefore what they fought for and how they understand, I know it, I understand it, I have lived it in the village, so I understand exactly what their mindset is and where they're coming from.
And what their drive is about.
Where they're driving. What do they want to see Namibia going? And what do they think are some of the challenges? At the same time, I have spent more than 20 years in the private sector. So I understand where the private sector is coming from. But now I know both of them have got something to add to Namibia. While the public sector drives social reform, social development. You know, like they said, the public sector takes money to offer services, while the private sector offers services to make money. But then you need both of them together.
Linkage,
so the efficiency and the profit motive of the private sector is required if we are to be more accountable with the funds that we use in the public sector. And the public sector heart of saying, make sure that you optimize the budget to render as much social objectives as possible. So both are needed. And if we can work together, we will be able to achieve both. And therefore, I felt that I'm probably one of the few people that understand that as much as the next person. And if anybody needs to stand up and put up their hand and say, let us see how we will bring these parties together, I need to stand up. So that was the need. And then, yes, I got here and I realized there is a new language. So you enter the public sector and then people start asking, who are you? Who is your mother? Where are you coming from? Here is our space. This is our public sector. Please go away. So yes, it's not that easy.
It was the whole push
you
again.
are seen, it's a private sector person who is coming in our space. What are you telling us? Yeah, you private sector people. So I was... Again,
it was back to the Afrikaans.
Exactly. It was back to 1997 when I just started at PwC. It's exactly the same journey that I have to go. And I believe that we are still going through it to some extent. We have been embraced and accepted by many people. There is still one or two that are still questioning our legitimacy of saying, what are you doing here? And therefore, you need to prove yourself before people can accept you. And therefore, many times, it's not a race thing. It's not a gender thing. It's a human thing. When somebody is in what they think is their space, and you enter there, they ask you, what are you doing in my space? Yes, many times when that person is different from you in terms of race or gender, we jump to the conclusion.
And we put them in a box.
Because I am. It is because it is many times not because. You will enter into a space where you find another black female, another white male, and you will face the same challenges as you find is in others. It is how we are as human beings.
No, I think that's such a good way to look at it also, because I think a lot of times we don't find that balance in like the two sectors. And I think you found a beautiful balance because you at the core of it all, when we start the journey as a chartered accountant, it's we did it because I needed to help my dad.
Yeah.
And when you look at what the public sector is all about, it's about helping the dads, the moms, the people, ensuring that the heart of the country can continue to beat. And to see that shift going from, no, I'm working, I know why I'm here in the private, now I'm here by the public because I need to go back to the roots. I
Yes.
need to get back to my roots. And my
Yes.
roots is about helping people, ensuring that people can continue. And I think
Yes.
a lot of times we don't realize that without chartered accountants, without people checking the balances and making sure that the trial balance is balancing,
Yes.
if it's not handled, there's so much that can go awry. And I think a lot of times people don't understand what actually our jobs are all about. So when people sit down and they actually sit and talk to you, ma'am, and they say, so what do you actually do? What does your new position entail? What is the job description?
Yeah.
How would you describe it
Yes.
now?
and I wanted to touch on your point, Rodelio. It is so important that many times people don't understand the need. And there is no way I will perform this job better if I did not go through the training of chartered
Yes.
accountancy that I went through. And many of the principles that I learned as a chartered accountant are the principles that I'm applying today. So whether it is the training process of training a chartered accountant, I say that one of the first thing that I respect in this world is almost like I tell everybody, somebody should either go through the training process of a CA or should go through military training. So those are the ones
Those are the
that
two you can.
the two that I think if you want to become a better servant and so on, go through those processes because they will humble you,
Yes.
they will train you, they will equip you, they will challenge you.
Yeah.
And of course, I have not been to the military, but I've seen a lot of movies. So I think between movies and so on, I think that is, and that is more or less what I bring. The work ethics of a
Yes.
chartered accountancy is what I'm bringing to the
Yes.
to the work that we are doing today. And yes, the work that I'm doing today includes a lot of meetings, a lot of meetings and more meetings. Because and why chartered accountancy helped me is because if I worked for one entity, I will know about that entity, I will know about that organization, and I will know about that sector.
Yes.
But where we are today, we are entrusted with promoting investments in Namibia, and specifically to drive the diversification strategy of the Namibian
Yes.
economy. And the diversification strategy is really about Namibia. We need to build an economy that is resilient to both external and internal shocks. If we have got the likes of COVID that
Yes.
completely shuts down our tourism sector, we need to make sure that we have got other sectors that
can.
are punching to make sure that they generate revenue.
Yes.
If commodity prices for our minerals, diamond prices go down, uranium prices go down, we need to make sure that we have got other sectors
That
that
can.
will be able to generate revenue for Namibia. And therefore, we say that, yes, we need more sources of revenue, sectors that are providing sources of revenue, and we need to diversify them. Because if they are only simple products, you will not be able to generate sufficient revenue.
Yes.
And therefore, we need to look at what do we produce currently in Namibia? How can we produce more of that? So the first one is really about what we call productivity task force, sector, increasing sector productivity. So yes, Namibia has got beef. Are we producing as much as we can of beef? And then the other one is, beside beef, what are other sectors that we can start implementing in Namibia? Film, yes, we have got a bit, but it's not really to the level where it should be.
Yes.
We definitely need to build that sector. Something like automotive. Yes, we can start manufacturing
Yes.
automotive components. Automotive components is one of the top 5 demanded products in Africa. It's one of the top demanded products in Namibia and Southern Africa. We have got South Africa that has got a thriving automotive industry where we can supply goods, so and many others. So how do we
Yes.
build new sectors while at the same time increasing the productivity of existing sectors? And therefore, that will then tying it back to my accounting days, because I did work across sectors. I audited banks, I audited fishing companies, I audited mining companies, I audited manufacturing entities, I audited agricultural companies, I audited NGOs. I have got a
very, very vast,
wide
yes.
understanding of sectors. So whenever anybody comes, okay, we want to invest in Namibia and we want to invest in this industry, Yes, I will not have an in-depth level, but I will have a
More than
working,
enough, yes.
and more than enough knowledge to have a good conversation. The interesting one was always when somebody approached us with green hydrogen. I say, okay, what green hydrogen? I say, okay.
Our favorite topic for this year.
Yes, our favorite topic. But what was interesting, I said, okay, so how does it work? No, you get water and you get hydrogen. I said, okay. So you are telling me that elementary tables that we did in chemistry in grade 12, that
yes.
one, you telling me water, you can actually, when they say water is H2O, you telling me that you can actually split the H and
the hydrogen
O
molecule from the
that,
oxygen.
yes, you can. I said, okay. Let me pause there before I take your conversation. So I am learning new things every day.
That's nice.
So yes, when we go to oil and gas, previously I've audited a company that was in exploration, and I've audited a company that is in the downstream. So I've got a good knowledge. So yes, right now then is meeting investors, some of them that are already investing in Namibia and saying, how can we serve them better? Some of them are looking to invest in Namibia and they come to us and say, we want to invest in Namibia. What does the regulation look like? And because I was an accountant, I understand high level what the tax laws mean. I have studied the Companies Act. So because of what was required. So that journey of a chartered accountant, I don't think I will be able to be effective in this role if I didn't go through that journey. But although it doesn't mean you have to be a chartered accountant to be in my position. It is a position that can be taken up by people that have studied various courses or various qualifications and so on. But I found that my background is enabling me to have good conversation, is enabling me to be effective in how I support various investors and, of course, how I support the government development program and agenda. No,
I think that's amazing. And I think for any accountants in the public sector, I think it's a great thing to look at, to understand that ability to learn so much, that ability to be involved in so many different people really can give you this plethora of knowledge and understanding of really what's happening in the country. And I think we don't know too often what's really happening in the country. And when you really get to understand the green hydrogens, the oil and gas, and you get to understand what makes the country so alive and vivid, you understand why people want to invest, you understand why people want to get involved, and you understand why we need our chartered accountants to balance all of that. 100%. But if you look at where our accounting or our public sector of accountants are right now in the country, what do you see the evolution of that looking like in the coming years? Do you see there being a big growth? Do you see them having a whole change with the technological revolution that's coming in? What do you see the future for them looking like? Yeah.
So, of course, for now, we start with the numbers. And, of course, at this stage, it's about a market of demand and supply. And demand and supply is driven by price, if you can put it that way. And when you look at the public sector, especially when you look at the public service, and public service is central government and so on. With central government, it's quite challenging to attract chartered accountancy, chartered accountants. And I think at this stage, if you just look at the pure central government, I don't know if Oscar, who's at the Ministry of Finance, is the only one, or maybe there's another person there. And then, of course, you go to state-owned enterprises, and you will see that more. But you will see a few more chartered accountants. But we are seeing that the number is increasing slowly. But the one thing is, the more accountants we produce, the more chartered accountants we produce, the more we will eventually have to get going to the private sector, and then of course it will be saturated, and the more we will have in the public sector, and not only in the SOE space, but of course in the non-commercial SOEs as well, but then also going into local authorities, going to regional authorities, and then eventually also going into central government. So that numbers I think I see us having. But when it comes to the enabling of the skills. Of course, especially when you look at the public service, the investment in terms of human capital and in terms of the development of human capital and giving them the required skills. I still remember before I left PwC, we had a program about talking about the skills of the future, and we're talking about analytics skills and so forth. But that is something that is at this stage probably still foreign to somebody who is working in the government, because when I started working with some of my colleagues and I say, guys, we are going to start working with Google and we will be sharing documents. First, it was like,
wait.
No.
Nangula, this is some interesting thing. This is way too
Yes,
foreign.
I remember. Because first you have to just get people to work on emails.
Yes.
It's a challenge. For them to digitalize the processes, it's a challenge. So I remember when I was told you are taking over this institution, and then I was told how many, of course there's no laptop, but it's how many desktop they have, and each one of them have got a printer. It's like, what? 27 printers, it's like one printer per person. They say, what happened to central printing? So those are the investment in technology. It's not catching up when we are working in the public sector. So yes, we need to do what we need to do to make sure that the investment in technology is happening, so that, of course, once we have invested in technology, then we'll be able to empower our people to use that technology, to train them in terms of skills. But where we are now with chartered accountants, for now we just want the numbers. If we can just have a few more chartered accountants who will opt to work in the public sector, I think that will be the first step, and that is the step that we will go for.
Now, not to close it off just immediately, but just two more questions.
Yes.
With what you just said, what would you say is that piece of advice or that sentence of motivation to really get those numbers in? How do we motivate our current youth and even just the current people that are pursuing or thinking about, maybe I should become a chartered accountant, maybe I can be like Nangula one day, maybe I should challenge myself? What is that advice you would give them to step into this path of career?
Yeah, so it's always difficult because I'm a purpose-driven person and I think about purpose. So my challenge to everybody is, of course, you need to look at purpose. And there's sometimes that you ask people, why do you want to become a chartered accountant? I want to earn a lot of money. That's the wrong answer. And it's not only for chartered accountants, it's for any profession whatsoever. Because somebody kind of say, do a job that you love, and you will never have to work a day in your life. So you need to do what you love, and you need to do what you are passionate about. And that is what I try to do with my children. And therefore, I kind of have a small formula that I tell people. Here is a little formula for you to determine where what your profession should be. So ask yourself about 4 questions. Number 1, it's like, what are your talents? What did God gift you with? That is the first thing. The second one is, what are the burdens? What are the things that you hate almost with kind of a passion? And then, of course, number 3, what are you passionate about? Because you can be talented with something, but that is not necessarily your passion. So you are talented about something, you are passionate about something, you have got burdens about things that keep you awake at night, and then what are the opportunities for service right in front of you? Where those 4 meet, that is where your career is. And that is what you need to ask yourself. So you ask yourself, yes, what is my passion? What is my talent? Yes, figures, it's something that comes naturally to me. What my passion is, I'm passionate about solving business kind of challenges and so on. What are my burdens? And yes, my burdens could be whether it's corruption, whether it is lack of leadership and so on. Look at those ones and ask, where are the many opportunities? You list all of them and you will find many careers that may stick. But then look at it and ask people, do some research, and then you find the answer. But first, find out something, because yes, you can change a profession. I think I've changed a profession. But once you have made a decision, you will hang in there for 24 years first. So make sure that it will be 24 happy years, not ones where you are dragging your feet to work every day.
I couldn't say it better myself. I think that's really what we all should invest in ourselves, is really to take that time to understand what it is that we want to do, where it is we want to go, and then balance it all as we go forward.
100%.
Now, as we're closing off, I feel like it was so quick. I still want to talk more. I'm like, this is so lekker. But for any of our viewers that are sitting down and they're like, okay, I need to learn more from Nangula. I need to see if she's going to release a book. I need to see if she's going to give us a blog or something. How do we keep up to date with what it is that you do in your personal capacity, but then also in a professional capacity at NIPDB? How do we stay up to date with all things?
Yeah. So I think my challenge is I get so, overtaken by what I'm doing. I was telling people at NIPDB recently, I said, look, NIPDB is a social responsibility and it's what you do. So at this stage, I am so passionate about what we are doing there that 24/7.
That's you.
That is me, and that's what I'm doing. So yes, I do have a Twitter account and a LinkedIn account. That is where I am more live on Twitter and LinkedIn. I have got a Facebook and Instagram. I post something there from time to time, but you can catch me more on Twitter and more on Instagram. But also, please follow the handles of Namibia Investment Promotion and Development Board. Everything that we do is there, and there is actually a lot of opportunities for young people to see what is happening in the country, where can I plug in, and if we are having certain sessions, like normally I used to have, and from time to time I will still have this one. It's a program I call Ohungi. And we are having it for young people. So we started it in Windhoek. We have had it in region where we call young people and say, let's have a conversation with you about what is going on in the economy. And Ohungi it's like in English what you call fireside chat. That is what we grew up calling it in my language. When we grew up in the village, in the night, all of us will go to what we call Olupale, and that is the open place where we sit in front of the fire and have conversation, and our father, mother, they will tell us stories and so on. That is Ohungi. And I'm having such a program that I'm having with young people and saying, let us have Ohungi and let us have discussion.
Beautiful.
So I know that I have not done one in Windhoek recently, but I owe it to...
So now we know it has to happen.
Definitely.
Now it has to happen.
So please follow us on NIPDB handles.
Yes.
When we have got the next Ohungi, you will find it there, and hopefully you will join us.
Ma'am, thank you so much. Thank you for creating a beautiful space for us. Thank you for reminding us that also doesn't matter where you come from. It doesn't matter what you think you want to do. There's always so much more out there for you if you put your mind to it and if you challenge yourself. And I think that's what I'm taking away from this the most is just don't be afraid to challenge yourself. Because I think a lot of times we're so scared because we're like, oh, there's maybe not going to be space or time, but challenge yourself and you could end up and be the next Nangula.
Thank you very much, Roderio, and it was a great chat.
Thank you so much for popping in. Yes. That's, of course, our guest, and that's, of course, our episode. Thank you so much for joining us on Beyond the Spreadsheet. It's, of course, a proud podcast brought to you by ICAN, which is the Institute of Chartered Accountants of Namibia, and we've got a lot more coming your way, so keep an eye on their website to stay informed and up to date. But for now, signing off, until the next time.